the Union government has introduced 138th Constitutional Amendment Bill recently in the Lok Sabha on August 2025, which contains provisions with regarding to the removal of a minister from the office if he is arrested and detained for 30 consecutive days in connection with a criminal offense which involves punishment of 5 years or more. So, on arrest and custody for 30 consecutive days, a minister can be removed from office in connection to a criminal offense involving punishment for 5 years or more. So, mere arrest and custody is enough for 30 consecutive days for the removal of the minister in case of a criminal offense punishable by 5 years or more imprisonment. So, what are the key provisions? Okay, so what is the scope? So, who all can be removed? That is the Prime Minister, the central ministers, the chief ministers of the state and state ministers, including the ministers of the National Capital Territory of Delhi under Article 239 AA. And what are the grounds of removal? A minister can be removed if he is accused of an offense punishable with imprisonment for 5 years or more. Mere accusation. Okay. And if they remain arrested or detained in custody for 30 consecutive days. So these are the grounds for removal. And what are the mechanisms for removal? How they can be removed? At the union level, the president can remove a minister on the advice of the prime minister. And such advice should be tendered by the 31st day of detention. If such advice is not tendered, then the minister shall cease, there is automatic cessation. That is, the minister shall cease to hold the office. In case of Prime Minister, he himself should resign by the 31st day of detention. And in case of Delhi, and in case if the Prime Minister, if he does not tender his resignation, failing which by the 31st day, he ceases to be the Prime Minister. And in case, so what are the provisions in the Constitution? How? Why? That is the Article 75(1). According to it, the ministers hold office during the pleasure of the President. That is, the President appoints the leader of the majority party as the Prime Minister based on Parliamentary Convention, and on the advice of the Prime Minister, the President appoints the Council of Ministers. So, the ministers hold office during the pleasure of the President, Article 75(1) and Article 75(2). The Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. At the state level, according to Article 164, again, the ministers hold office during the pleasure of the governor. So, how the state level, that is the ministers or the chief ministers, are removed? That is, the governor removes the ministers on the advice of the chief minister by the 31st day of detention. If such no advice is tendered, then there is automatic cessation, similar to the union level. And regarding the chief minister, he himself should resign by the 31st day of detention. Otherwise, he ceases to be the chief minister. So, and also Delhi, the president removes the ministers of Delhi on the advice of the chief ministers on the same conditions. And is there any bar on reappointment? No, there is no bar on reappointment. That is, the ministers, once released, they may be reappointed to the same position. So, there is no bar on reappointment. And what is the summary? So, how can a minister be removed? Okay, a minister can be removed from office if he is held in custody for 30 consecutive days on serious charges. So, just he has to be arrested and held in custody. So, no conviction, that is, he need not be convicted. Conviction is not required. Mere arrest and continued detention are enough. And what about the removal? Removal happens through formal resignation, that is the resignation of the Prime Minister or the central ministers, union ministers at the union level. Okay, so the resignation of the Prime Minister and the union ministers to the President, and the resignation of the Chief Minister and the state ministers to the Governor. And also the President and the Governor pass orders for the removal of the union ministers or the state ministers on the advice of the Prime Minister or Chief Minister respectively. And if such advice is not tendered, by automatic cessation. And it applies to Union, State and National Capital Territory of Delhi under Article 239 AA. And is there any bar on reappointment? No. Once released, the person can be reappointed to office. So, the minister or the Prime Minister, Chief Minister or the state ministers can be removed if they are held in custody for 30 consecutive days on serious charges. No conviction is required, just arrest and continuous detention for 30 consecutive days. Removal by formal resignation, resignation of the Prime Minister or Union Ministers to the President, and the state chief ministers and the state ministers to the Governor, or the advice tendered by the Prime Minister or the Chief Minister to the Governor, to the President and Governor respectively. They pass an order for the removal of the Union Ministers and State Ministers, or automatic cessation. Applies to both Union, State and Delhi. And once released, they can again be reappointed to the office. So, political reactions. What are the political reactions to the 138th Constitutional Amendment Bill? Some supportive views, okay, that is mainly the government view. The government has projected it as a clean politics reform, that is a reform to clean politics so as to strengthen the probity in public life, that is strengthening morality and to promote good governance in politics. It is used as a weapon or tool to eliminate corruption and criminalization, which are the biggest obstacles to good governance. And also, ministers who face serious criminal charges cannot hold office while in custody because it undermines governance and public trust. This is the view of the government, that is clean politics reform. And civil society, what are the views of civil society and some jurists? They see it as a step towards criminalization of politics. What is criminalization of politics? When persons with criminal background or criminal charges, they enter politics and they are elected to the office, is criminalization of politics. So, civil society and some jurists view it as a step towards curbing criminalization of politics. This is a long-standing issue as flagged by the Supreme Court in Lily Thomas versus Union of India case 2013 and some of the reports of the Law Commission of India. So, Law Commission of India is a non-statutory body. It is constituted by a notification by the Government of India, Ministry of Law and Justice, Department of Legal Affairs, with a clear defined mandate. That is, it reviews laws. That is, it reviews or it does research in the field of law by giving some precise, that is, the Supreme Court or Department of Legal Affairs, Supreme Court or High Court gives it a precise or defined subjects. So, the Law Commission makes recommendations in the forms of reports on various subjects recommended by the Department of Legal Affairs, Supreme Court and High Court. These reports, they provide insights, that is thought-provoking insights, and also they are vital they provide vital review of the laws in India. So some of the reports of the law. So far around 277 reports have been submitted by the Law Commission of India. And also an important case, Supreme Court in Lily Thomas versus Union of India case. So in this case, Lily Thomas versus Union of India case 2013, a bill was introduced in the Supreme Court challenging Section 8, Clause 4 of the Representation of Peoples Act 1951. So according to this Section 8, Clause 4 of Representation of the Peoples Act 1951, it provided immunity, or it saved the sitting MPs and MLAs of states from disqualification in case of conviction in certain offences as provided in the other clauses of the Section 8 of Representation of the Peoples Act 1951. So the Supreme Court has declared it as ultra vires. That is, the Section 88(4) now does not save any politician, that is MPs or MLAs, sitting MPs or MLAs, in case if they are disqualified, they have to seize the office immediately. And with regarding to the report of ADR, Association for Democratic Reforms, since 2004, the MPs elected to the Lok Sabha, their with criminal charges has been increasing. That is, in 2009, 30%, it was 30%. 30% of the MPs elected to the Lok Sabha, they had criminal charges. 2014 increased to 34%, 2019 to 43% of the elected MPs. That is 233 out of 543 in Lok Sabha. And among them, 112 MPs, that is 21% of the MPs, had serious criminal charges like rape, murder, kidnapping, etc. Okay. So, what are the causes for criminalization of politics? As you already understood, criminalization of politics is a person, when persons with criminal backgrounds or criminal charges, they enter politics and are elected to office. So what are the causes? Some of the causes are nexus between politicians and criminals. That is, there is close tie between politicians and criminals. They use money and muscle power to get elected to the office. Weak law enforcement and judicial system. That is, Indian criminal justice system is characterized by slow, inefficient and corrupt processes. So, it is becoming difficult to convict politicians with criminal charges. And voter apathy and lack of political awareness. Some voters in the rural areas and impoverished areas, they prioritize tangible immediate benefits over the long-term benefits of good governance and rule of law, and lack of internal party democracy. Many political parties, they lack internal democratic structures. So the political leaders, they choose candidates with criminal background with the ability to win rather than on integrity. So these are some causes of criminalization of politics. And some critical views, that is the opposition parties. So the opposition parties are up in arms against the 130th Constitutional Amendment Act bill. So they called it as political vendetta, that is political revenge. That is, the ruling party can use this bill, 130th Constitutional Amendment bill, to carry out political revenge, because the criteria is what? 30 days of detention without conviction. Okay. So, since detention for 30 days can happen even without conviction, and the opposition parties, they warn regarding the misuse of investigative agencies such as ED and CBI to destabilize the elected governments, that is especially the governments ruled by the opposition parties. And Some other critical views regarding the regional parties, that is regional leaders, especially the CMs. They have described it as an attack on federalism and state autonomy. And the Kerala CM, he has criticized it as a neo-fascist strategy to promote authoritarianism and single party rule. And one of the leader AM of AIMIM party, he has criticized it as, that is, this bill sounds the death knell for the elected governments. That is, the ruling party may use this bill to topple the elected governments. And legal scholars have criticized it as, that is, they have viewed it as violates Article 21, right to life and personal liberty, and also it violates the principle of innocence, that is presumption of innocence. That is, a person until and unless he is convicted of the offense, he is treated as innocent. So it violates both Article 21 and principle of presumption of innocence. So what is the status of bill? The 130th Constitutional Amendment Bill has been introduced in the Lok Sabha on August 20, 2025, and the current stage, the bill has been referred to the Standing Committee on Law and Justice for review. So, during the debate in the House, when it was introduced in the Lok Sabha, there was an uproar in both the houses leading to adjournments and walkouts, but the government is insisting on passing the bill as a part of its zero tolerance to corruption. So, what is the next step? That is, after the bill has been reviewed by the Standing Committee on Law and Justice, it will submit the bill to the House along with the recommendations, and both the houses pass the bill with special majority. Special majority. Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So, special majority, that is absolute majority. Absolute majority is majority of total membership of the House. That is more than 50% of the members of the House plus majority of not less than 2/3 of the members present plus voting. So, it is passed by both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha by special majority, and after that it has to be ratified by at least half of the states under Article 368. Article 368 deals with the procedure for the amendment of the Constitution. So, since this bill affects center-state relations, so it has to be passed by both the houses of the parliament by special majority, but also it has to be ratified by at least half of the states, that is half of the 28 states. So, this is regarding the 130th Constitutional Amendment